Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. We've got real talk for real people looking for real solutions. I'm Tanya Rivens, and this is Canceling COVID. Thanks so much for joining us. I know it's wet, it's chilly outside, so come around and join this conversation as we work together to build stronger families and communities in the middle of a global pandemic. And of course, I want to say thank you to the Mecklenburg County Public Health, of course, Mecklenburg County Public Health Department, for being a sponsor of this show. We're so appreciative of this. And if you need more information and to get your COVID-19 questions answered from reliable sources that have the facts, you can go to mecnc.gov, or you can call 980-314-9400. So I mentioned it's really chilly and chillier than normal, actually, and rainy and a little bit windy outside, or you may have to get some gas. Just put all that aside for now and join the conversation, because we've got a really good conversation for you today. Let's jump into our question of the day. We've got a lot to talk about, and I want you to tell me, I see you hopping on, do you think proof of vaccinations will become the norm for domestic travel? So if you're just traveling around the US, do you think you're going to have to provide proof of a vaccination? That's the new norm for quarantine-free travel in the US. Hop in the chat and share your responses. We appreciate hearing from you. And most importantly, we love getting your feedback, because that helps us so much. Now, I'll bring up your answers in the chat and share with everyone as we continue. I also want to talk to share that we're now on YouTube. So make sure you spread the word, share, and you can get us on YouTube Live as we continue to expand and grow this program. We're going to talk with national travel reporter, award-winning correspondent, Dayvee Sutton, a beautiful sister. She's going to join us in a few minutes, but let's keep going. First, our top story. Your kids are now, those that are young as 12, they are able to get the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine as early as tomorrow. You had to know it was coming. So now children ages 12 to 16, they're eligible. The CDC is expected to give final approval this afternoon. And here's the tentative plan around Charlotte. Novant, they anticipate, that's Novant Health, that is, they anticipate accepting walk-ins for the 12 to 15 age group at all of its permanent vaccination sites beginning tomorrow at 3 p.m. So if that's important to you, go ahead and mark it on your calendar. You can get started at 3 o'clock tomorrow, ages 12 to 15. I think I said 16, but it's ages 12 to 15. As for Atrium Health, parents will be able to call their child's primary care pediatrician or the primary care office and use the patient portal to sign up for a shot. Now, once the CDC approves, Mecklenburg County will administer the vaccine at Bojangles Coliseum, so they're headed back out there, as well as the Sheridan Conference Center and the StarMed clinics. There's one on Tuckasegee Road, and there's another one on Central Avenue. And these are all players that have been involved before. So I'd love to hear from you. Do you think, as we head into the travel season, having your vaccination proof of it is going to be the new norm for quarantine-free travel? Let's bring in our first guest. She joins us every Wednesday, and I love having a conversation with her as well. Groundwater Solutions, also a sponsor of the show. Dr. Tracia Black, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
Hi there, Tanya. Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you every week, my sister. Yeah, so thank you so much. You guys bring so much joy and laughter and enlightenment. So I appreciate that. So let's just dive in. We were talking about the Pfizer vaccine. Do you administer it? And if so, when do you anticipate making it available to children?
We do administer the Pfizer vaccine as well as the Moderna, and it's available now. We have been vaccinating children as young as 16, but now with the new FDA approval for children for 12 years and up, we are administering to 12 and above.
Okay, so you guys, but now the final approval becomes today. Have you given it yet to any children under the age of 16?
Not.
Absolutely. Okay.
We have not, but we've let all our sites know moving forward that is available for them. We, of course, are out in the community daily, and you can come to our office Monday through Friday and schedule an appointment if you or your child would like to be vaccinated.
Okay, I'm going to leave with another question, but I want to acknowledge Sue Caldwell. Thank you, Sue, for hopping on. She says she's just on for a quick minute. and she thinks it's necessary to provide proof of vaccinations after experiencing the pandemic we've lived through over the past year. And you know, I feel her on that. People are like, I'm just over it. Geez, just do what we need to do so we can get through this. Otherwise, it's going to be prolonged. And there's so many other issues pulling at it. But I wanted to ask that the children, you've been vaccinating those that were eligible, that's been approved, 16 and over. So do you anticipate any hesitancy from parents regarding the younger children? What is your take, or what are you feeling? Because you've got a pulse out there in the community.
I don't anticipate any additional hesitancy. I think for the parents who are choosing to be vaccinated themselves, I think they want their children vaccinated. They want their children to have the same protection that they have. Okay. But then you're encountering, you know, of course, our community members who are hesitant, who are not willing to take the vaccine. And for those that have that existing hesitancy for themselves, they also share that for their children and don't anticipate that. For me, you know, it's challenging because our children are now returning to the school system and they are required to be in congregate settings. Right. So as adults, many of us are still working from home or able to have that social distance to choose where they go and interact with the public. And our children are not necessarily being given that choice if they're returning to the school 5 days a week. And there's definitely hesitancy.
So earlier in the pandemic, there was Go ahead, Dr. Black.
Okay, so there is definitely hesitancy. There's some a new website in North Carolina. It's the census tract of vaccines. And when we look at these numbers, the state is asking providers like myself who have the ability to do mobile vaccines and mobile testing to watch this census tract pretty frequently to see where the numbers are very low. And we're seeing in many communities in North Carolina, you know, it's 20% or less of communities that are actually vaccinated. And they're looking at those numbers. They're not even looking at the children. They're looking at 16 and above. And we're in the 20, 25, 30% range in many of our areas throughout the state. And, you know, that's a challenge. And we're trying to figure out, what do we do? They're even talking about incentive programs where, and you've probably heard about it throughout the state, but giving cash incentives to be vaccinated. And I'm interested in maybe one week we can talk about what our community thinks about that, being paid to be vaccinated.
Absolutely. And that's going to be a great conversation, and I'm sure controversial as well. But, you know, early in the pandemic, as far as COVID symptoms, it was kind of thought they didn't really impact children as badly. Now we're seeing that's not the case. Can you kind of talk about the COVID related advice that you're giving parents who are bringing their children into the testing sites?
I really give them a lot of the same advice that I give adults. With adults, we're really concerned about lung and heart health. And, you know, many adults, I'll tell them to take a baby aspirin every day. I don't necessarily give that same advice for children, but for the child to be drinking lots of water, 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 water. And we know children like sugary drinks or sodas and things like that, but it's really important for our children who are positive for COVID to be drinking and flushing their bodies with water. Also to make sure that they're doing the same safety precautions, wearing gloves even in the house, wearing a mask even in the house, which is challenging for our children, but it's so very important. And that for the parents, wear masks too around their children. You know, we've always known, not necessarily whether we believe that children had the same symptoms, but we knew they could contract COVID and they could spread COVID. So the same precautions that we take as adults, we have to make sure that our children are doing the same thing. And then if they are going to school, that they are doing those same safety measures in schools. I would be sending, I don't have any school age children right now, but if I did, I'd be sending them to school with gloves and masks. And I'd be talking about washing their hands frequently.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I've got a senior graduating, but, you know, colleges are now leaning towards requiring proof of a vaccine as well, proof that you've been vaccinated, which is great. A comment from Erica Simonton Beatty. She says she believes we should have to show proof of the vaccination in order to stay safe. She doesn't think all people are getting vaccinated, and we want to We want to do all we can to keep our children safe. So getting them vaccinated will be a definite plus. Thank you, Ms. Beatty, for weighing in on that as we are still asking you to hop on and respond to the question of the day. We appreciate your feedback on that. Also, Dr. Black, Groundwater Solutions, talk a little bit about Pfizer and their clinical trials with children. They've done it for months. What do you think about the timing of the vaccine? Example, it's so close to summer when families are planning to come out of their bubble. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think they're working as fast as they could. So I know that this is probably as early as they could get the approval, and it happens to fall at this time where we're preparing for summer. I think folks are going to fall into two camps. They're going to say, well, you know, we want to be traveling. We're not going to stop to get our children vaccinated. They may be concerned about symptoms because there are definitely post-vaccine symptoms that we've had to struggle with as a community, and they may not want that for their children going into the summer break. I think you're going to have another camp of parents that believe, well, this is the perfect time. They don't have to go out. They don't have to go to school. If they have any symptoms related to the vaccine, that they can stay at home. And so I think the timing is just what it is, that you know, this is as soon as we can make it available. And I think the parents, again, who are concerned about their children's safety, they're going to do what they need to make sure their children are safe. And we talked about last week, if they're choosing not to take the vaccine, they have to take safety precautions. You have to do something. We can't not take the vaccine and think that we can go into places unmasked and you know, free-nilly, not doing anything to protect ourselves. That's critical.
Because it is, and it's critical that we try to all come together so we can get back to the new norm. Now, the summer vacation is just around the corner. Do you think proof of vaccinations will eventually become the norm for quarantine-free travel? Of course, that's our question of the day. So what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely think that is going to be the norm. I think that's going to be the norm for not just travel, but entry into, I've heard that some restaurants are considering asking for proof of vaccination. I think sporting events, concerts, when they return, I think all of those are going to require proof of vaccination, or you're going to be subject to some very expensive COVID testing before you're allowed to enter.
And I think that's a great point because people now do have an opportunity to somewhat control who's coming in. And of course, you'll have a choice. You either want to get vaccinated or pay the higher price tag, obviously, for the testing. So I think that you just put your finger on something that where we are headed. And as we always say as well, that's the new norm for us. So thanks for that insight. Now, where are you testing and vaccinating today? Yeah.
So
where are you testing and vaccinating today?
We are in Laurinburg, North Carolina today, doing a large community vaccination and testing site. We are also in Charlotte at University Adult Daycare. And I've been saying for weeks that it's near Sam's Club, but my site manager corrected me the other day and he said, no, it's actually adjacent to UNC Charlotte. We're also at Kittyland Daycare in Charlotte this evening.
Oh, wow. You're
and
busy.
Again,
You're in Laurinburg.
Yeah, we're in Laurinburg, Scotland County. And again, you can, our office is open every day, Monday through Friday. You're able to call us 704-596-0505 and schedule for either vaccination or testing.
Good stuff. Again, Dr. Tracia Black, Groundwater Solutions. As we wrap up, are there any final thoughts you would like to leave with everyone today?
No, I just want us to encourage each other. I think we're all tired of this. We're ready to get back to normal, and we've got to do what we have to do. We have to pay attention, and there's again, those low numbers all across the state. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family members to ask, you know, where they stand with regard to vaccination, and provide education. We're asked the state, we're looking for funding now to start some community workshops so we can actually have some live conversations with folks in our community. So if you care about this issue, tell people to tune into us on Wednesdays and Fridays, but start the conversation.
And I appreciate that because that's what we've been trying to do all along, is educate. And perhaps we'll finally get an opportunity to start doing some of these forums and discussions. And I've talked to some ministries, whether it's inside or, you know, now to the point inside physically distanced, but now we can go outside as the weather gets better
Right.
and kind of set up. And because people, I think, just want to be educated and get more information. So Dr. Tracia Black, Groundwater Solutions, thank you so much. And as always, I appreciate you making my Wednesday as we continue. Great information. She always provides great information for you. Fewer Americans are reluctant to get a COVID-19 vaccine than just a few months ago. So people are not as willing anymore. A new Associated Press survey finds that just 11% of people who remain unvaccinated say they definitely will get the shot, while 34% say they ain't getting it. And I'm not exactly sure, you know, at least 55% in the middle with the potential to still take their shot, take their spot and get their shot, which is where we come in. We're trying to educate you, and certainly the opportunity for you to find out more. Hopefully that will lead to you getting vaccinated so that you can go ahead as we all work together to improve things in our community. But right now, another question, and I'm excited about this conversation as well. People are getting ready for travel. I know gas prices may be like a little thorn right now, but we want to go ahead. Our question of the day: do you think proof of vaccination will be the norm for domestic travel? So Dayvee Sutton, she's an award-winning, Emmy award-winning travel expert, correspondent, host, and she's joining us now to talk about you know, what we are having this conversation about. I see you in the chat box. I would love to see more of your comments on this, but I'm honored to welcome in Dayvee Sutton. Hey sis, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you. You know, you all big time now. It's been years since I've seen you, but we still kind of keep in touch on social media. And I just admire, love what you do. You're always professional at it and you come with it. And you are a lover of outdoors. And I love the challenge. Don't challenge me in tennis or you will lose. I love that.
Yes,
I love
yes, definitely.
Yeah. You've always had a beautiful spirit. And let's just get started talking about, because you're the person, you know, if anyone wants to know about travel, you are to go to. And vaccination passports are already needed for certain cruises and travel abroad. What do you see happening in regards to domestic travel?
Yeah, as it becomes available for everybody to have vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccine in particular, we're going to see first private companies install that as their policy for you to participate. And first, I always just want to kind of give a baseline when we talk about like a vaccine passport. That isn't anything new, in particular for travelers. And if I brought a little demo, this is my passport. And if you go to certain countries already, so if you've been to some places in South America, if you've been to some places in Africa, they require you to have a particular vaccine before this pandemic. And the one I had to get that was really required was the yellow fever. And so I just keep this vaccine card in my passport booklet already. And so along with that, I've added my new COVID-19 vaccine card. So I just like to always establish that when that conversation comes up, because it's not something new. It's not even something old. It's something that's already active.
I'm glad that you made that point. I never took that into consideration when having this conversation. And I'm probably not the only one, knowing that if we go to Africa and some of these other places, there are some vaccinations that you have to take before you are allowed into that country. So you're absolutely right. Now, although the proof of vaccinations isn't required right here in the U.S., are you seeing perks being offered for people who are, because you travel so much and you travel all around. So are you seeing some incentives being provided to people who are already vaccinated?
Well, it's going to be more about access. So already domestically, just kind of tapping back to that first question, 18 states, when I last checked, said that they will be on board to have some sort of confirmation, and that's statewide. I know a few weeks ago, I read about New York going to start theirs soon. The governor said that, and that is access to ball games, ballparks, concerts, festivals, all the things that we've been saying that we wanted to get back to normal with. They're going to have that kind of guard. So first private companies, and then we're going to see that domestically. Internationally, there are some countries internationally that are already requiring that, as we are still very much in the pandemic, because we are also seeing internationally that some countries are shutting down once again. And so one of the things when you do consider traveling right now is the onus is on you to do research and to protect yourself when you're traveling as far as your investment in travel. So that includes travel insurance. That includes making sure that you buy a ticket that's not just affordable. You know, before, when I would come on and give travel tips, we were always hunting for the best budget flights and hotel deals, but you might want to invest a little bit more these days, because you're going to want something that's flexible in case something happens, in case you're headed to some place and then they have a shutdown. How's that is going to affect your trip? Do you even take the trip? Or what if you're stuck there and they shut down? So there is a lot more that's in the air if you decide to travel right now. And so before you decide to travel, you need to do your research to consider all the possibilities.
That's some good stuff that you share, and great little nugget there as well. I will say I was kind of disappointed. We've had at least 2 trips that were canceled as a result of COVID, and they would not give a refund because we got the cheap ticket. But I did see a couple of senators now that are calling out the airlines saying, hey, give these people their money back. You know, they won't refund it. You have to purchase another ticket. They did extend the deadline, so that was encouraging. But I kind of thought, you know, here are the airlines. They got the money from the government. They're keeping our money. Where's all this money going? So I know you've got a pulse on all that, but I'm saying that to say now when I purchase, keep in mind, as you just suggested, don't always go with the non-refundable, the cheapest fare, and something that you can allow flexibility. Now, COVID-related travel trends, what are you seeing right now? Because you're in and out of these airports, and how are you staying germ-free?
I'm staying germ-free because I'm still, even though I'm vaccinated, I'm still taking all the precautions that the CDC told us to take, and that is keeping distance when you can. It's actually been hard in these airports and on the airplane these days, but wearing my mask when I'm around other people, even though I am vaccinated, and that cleanliness, right? Making sure that we're germ-free. The trends right now, there's a couple of them. So one thing that I've been talking about is revenge travel. And I know that's kind of like a very clickbaity name, but it really is.
Tell me more.
Yeah, we started seeing this last year, actually, when we started seeing people being in the house just for a few months. Remember when we thought that we would only have to be shut down for a couple of weeks, and people couldn't handle it then. So they bought all the bikes, all the skates, all the things. People who never hiked before decided maybe this should be the time that they should go hiking and camping. So those were the kind of precursors. Being locked up for more than a year, everybody that I'm sure if you ask somebody, they have travel plans. And so revenge travel is a splurge of travel, not only increasing in demand because people are going to take trips that they vowed to take while they were in the house last summer. They're going to take it twice as much. And because the demand's going to go up, the prices will also go up. But here is the caveat. People will be willing to pay those prices. So this is one big trend that we're going to see. And what we're starting to see immediately, though, is another trend called toe dip travel. And that is people just kind of like creaking out of their homes to kind of see what is it like to travel. So they may not take an international trip. And the decision to travel right now is a very personal one still, because there are varying factors. And, you know, one of the big varying factors are people. We know the people who aren't going to take the vaccine, but we also know there are people who cannot take the vaccine, right? So travel is just a personal decision. And that's what I always kind of just like to leave a baseline with. But toe dip travel means like you might take a road trip or a staycation in the neighboring, town, or explore more of the region around you.
I really love those names. And who comes up with those ideas? I mean, like toe dip and revenge travel. So let's talk about staycations. A lot of that happening too.
Yeah, and that actually started happening last year when people were, started to feel more comfortable about what the hotels started to offer. We also started seeing people who may not be comfortable with going into a hotel, but wanted to do a rental. And a rental through like a Verbo or an Airbnb is a little bit different because you're dealing directly with the homeowner. So you can ask more of those questions. And people went out of their way to talk about how they cleaned the home and that they made sure that no one was in the home at least a day or two before you arrived. And so staycations have been around for a while, but there was also an increase in that for people who just wanted to get out the house. But an extension on a staycation is another term that I came up with. I'm called temporary pandemic moves. And we started to see that last fall. So we had been in the pandemic for like about 6 or 7 months. People were starting school again and realized they may be working from home, and then their children were remote schooling. So they packed up their laptops and rented places somewhere else better to work from.
Wow. And that's kind of your situation. We were talking about that. That is just so cool. And my producer, Amelia, said, I should have packed my family up and moved to Mexico. What a great idea. So I guess I just missed the boat on that. I only saw that story, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where a lot of people, and I mentioned, I think it was like South Dakota, there was a couple places that I really wouldn't have been interested in. But apparently the people that had picked those spots, they were very happy about it.
You know, I actually chuckled. I made a joke on some show I was on last year, is that our Mykonos crowd were in Wyoming last summer. And the Mykonos crowd is like the Kardashians and the celebrities, because remember, we weren't allowed to leave the country and countries weren't allowing us to come either. So those kind of elite and wealthy people, they decided to be cowboys and cowgirls if you watched their social media last year. So that Midwest, Western and country became a trend in the middle of last year as well.
And that's interesting. And I think Kanye, when you mentioned that, he has a studio and a whole setup there already. So that's very interesting. And I'm sure it's pretty country to visit as well. A great part of our country. So, Dayvee, I appreciate you so much. Keep doing what you're doing, sis, and keep shining bright as we wrap things up. Is there anything else you would like to leave with us? Of course, your website, dayveesutton.com. at Dayvee Sutton on all social media outlets. And I know so many people have so many questions. They're probably sitting here just, gosh, I need to ask this. Guys, hop on. I'm getting ready to wrap up with her, but I'm sure she's more than happy to honor your request or reach out after we complete this show. Anything else you would like to close with?
No, but I just, I know everybody's itching to travel. The key thing is, you mentioned about not getting your refunds, is there were kind of things in place that the airlines and tourism companies had in place during the pandemic to kind of give you more flexibility. But now the onus really is on you. Their approach is like, we know that we've been in this for a year. It's up to you to do the research. And so just take a little more time before booking your trips. Before we might have booked things spontaneously, take a little time, do some research, and you will be able to travel again.
And that's some really, really good advice. So thank you